Alright, Kyle Souza of the TalkingGeek.com, Thieves World Turning Points, talking about a book. Been a minute since I talked about a book. This one is edited by Lynn Abbey. Why edited? Because it's got a bunch of different stories written by different people. So Thieves World is a fantasy setting from the 80s. There were several books written. Different people wrote them. Some stories were contradictory. Some of the stories were contradictory on purpose. But they had a shared universe between the stories. And this is the beginning of the reboot for it. So after like a 10 to 13 year break, something like that, they decided to bring Turning Points back. So this is kind of a kicker, or kickoff, I should say, for that. So you've got a bunch of different stories in here by Mickey Zucker Reichart, Andrew Afoot, Diana L. Paxson, Selena Rosen, Dennis L. McKiernan, Robin Wayne Bailey, Jody Lynn Nye, Lynn Abbey herself, Jeff Grubb, Raymond E. Feist, and then a little summary at the end. So it's pretty cool. All of this is they go together. These different stories do, and some of them share some of the same people, not as main characters, but as secondary characters. Like someone who's a secondary character in one story may be a secondary character in another story, or maybe even just a tertiary character that's mentioned, versus there are some people who are main characters that then become secondary characters in another story, or a tertiary character in another story. And there's a lot of different people covered in this. So I think it's a great way to start that, and then you can pick, like, what characters do you like the most, what stories are the most interesting, and then go down those stories. I don't know how many books were written or published after this one. This one is a Tor fantasy book, and it was published in, when was it exactly? 2002. So first edition 2002, first mass market edition 2003. This says copyright 2002 by Lynn Abbey and Thieves World 2000. This one was probably released in 2003 then. I don't think it's a first edition. If it is, I have destroyed it. But I picked this one up at the dollar store actually. So anyways, about the story itself. It's set in a city called Sanctuary. A terrible thing happened 20 years prior to when these stories were set. And some terrible things are getting ready to happen again, or possibly happen again. Depends on if they can be stopped or not. So some of these stories are about good people, some of them are about bad people. Each of them are about one or just a small group of people and some specific function of their role in society, whether they're a knight, whether they're more high class, whether they're a homeless boy, whether they are a magical necromancer, or somebody who hates magic, which magic is pretty looked down on in the Sanctuary world. Some people are trying to atone for past sins. People are trying to achieve greatness. Some people are trying to cause bad things to happen. It's a lot to go through. How many pages is this book? 354 pages. Little dyslexia creeping up there. 354 pages. So the next book afterward is Thieves World: First Blood by Lynn Abbey, and edited by Robert Lynn Aspirin. So that one was the first novel of this reboot, as it were. They brought back some old authors, they got some new authors, they brought back some old characters, they got new characters. It's a good starting point for people. So you could pick one up at Dollar Tree. You could probably get one online. I'll include a link to Amazon if you can find it. Sometimes it's hard to find things at dollar stores. Not all Dollar Trees have the same thing. And once it's gone, it's gone. They usually don't get the same thing like this type of thing over and over again. It's pretty cool. There were lots of cool stories in here. The one about Kadassa, sorry, that's how she's pronounced, might be one of my favorites. She's a rogue. She's a thief. She's doing something that's good, mostly. She's stealing from and taking out bad guys, killing some of the bad guys. She's doing it for money, not because she loves it, not for honor or anything like that. She's just a hired gun, as it were. So I guess less of a rogue, more of a fighter. You do have a rogue in here with the Shadow Master and his new apprentice, which that one's a good storyline. That's one of the earlier storylines. One of the end storylines is pretty short. So that one was interesting. Most of these stories are a decent size, but then you have the story Apocalypse Noun. That one was pretty cool. That one was pretty cool. That one was interesting. That one was about a guy who's not really a magician, not a magic user, but he's kind of a monk, I guess, studying words, and he stumbles across some stuff that's dangerous. Things go wrong. Trouble ensues. He's trying to get away from that trouble. He thinks he does, but he doesn't. That type of thing. So that's what these stories are. It's your traditional fantasy novel. I guess it could be called, I don't know. It's not really low fantasy. There's not tons and tons of magic, so I wouldn't call it high fantasy. Maybe middle fantasy. No, if I had to pick between low fantasy and high fantasy, I'd call it high fantasy. But it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I'll have to check out more books from after the reboot if I can, and maybe some from before the reboot too. So thank you, Lynn Abbey and Tor, one of the best publishers of fantasy books right there. I'm Kyle. Check out thetalkinggeek.com. Thank you very much for watching this little video, those of you who do.